Finally, this week, this whole week, finally, I have one day where I'm a little bit late, even past the 5 minute mark. Glad you guys showed up. All of my nerds are in here. I'm sure all the folks who show up 5 minutes beforehand for a party, calm down. Sure, you guys are here. Yes, Dexter, I was late. Sorry, bro. Here we go. We got lots going on today, as you guys probably saw in the description there. Lisa Murkowski has figured out that she's being played by Donald Trump because no one told her that that would happen. Also, continuing updates and things going on with Jeffrey Epstein and the way that they're trying to continue to manipulate this in other ways. We'll find all that out and see how things are going. And if I have time on the back end, considering I came in here a little bit late, there's more devastating news and images from this mass deportation policy that's headed up by idiots like Tom Homan and Nazis like Stephen Miller. And it's a direct result of their hatred for certain people in this country and their bigotry and their white supremacy. It's just how it all works. It's what we're seeing in front of our faces, and violence is coming. Let's keep it real. Okay, so I mean, how's that for a happy Friday intro to how things are going? What are you guys drinking on? It's a Friday, right? It's supposed to go crazy. We're having a party here. This isn't supposed to be depressing. As a matter of fact, we might as well start with some of the things where we had a little bit of pushback, something better than just the normal kowtowing and bowing their heads and allowing lies to fly as Donald Trump stands in front of them. One, Jerome Powell, the chair of the Fed, who Donald Trump has been mad at for months for not doing his bidding to try and make himself look better while he destroys the economy and everyone's lives. Jerome Powell actually stood up for some reality and some facts while Donald Trump was lying in front of him. Let's check this out.
Well, thank you very much. We're looking at the construction, and we're with the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening. You know, it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and
Yes,
you're
sir.
in charge of the committee.
Indeed, one of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
Entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not, it's not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use. But no, we don't expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off, everyone.
So there's Donald Trump lying right there next to Jerome Powell as they're in the buildings that he's been talking about that are being built and apparently have a price cost overrun. So this is the latest attack to try and disrupt the credibility of Jerome Powell because Jerome Powell isn't doing what he wants on something completely unrelated. So even as he's trying to explode this whole story and act like it's worse than what it is, as they're in it, he has to make appearances where he's acting like he's doing something. So he has these photo ops that then turn into attacks, subtle attacks on the guy that he's been openly attacking on social media, because that's how keyboard warriors work. So as he stands there and says, I got the receipts to show the prices, Jerome Powell, as you saw him shaking his head from the being like, this guy's lying his ass off. Then pointed out part of that whole thing of the overrun that you're pointing out in your numbers, standing next to your boy here, Tim Scott, who's confirming it for you because he kisses your ass too. By the way, that's from a building that was built in 5 years ago, bro. But he just glosses over all those facts because he knows people at Fox News like Jesse Waters are going to carry his water. Now, remember what you just saw of Jerome Powell talking about, well, that paper you just pulled out is showing some buildings that are completed 5 years ago. That's already done. So the cost that you're adding there, similar to what Elon Musk and his boys at Doge were adding costs and price cuts that they're doing and waste, fraud, and abuse that they weren't finding made up out of thin air. It's the same type of strategy, except Jerome Powell wasn't ready to hear that. Here's Jesse Waters trying to make it seem like a different reality than what it was, because he knows the viewers over at Fox will believe anything that they say with these edits. Watch what's missing.
He's burning cash on some renovations at headquarters. Trump knows a thing or two about flipping buildings, so he wanted an appraisal and brought receipts.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
Then Trump turned the meet and greet into an episode of he's burning cash on.
He said it's being built in the face of Jerome Powell talking about how it has been built. And Jesse Waters conveniently cut out there and talking about how he brought the receipts, those false receipts. Just because you bring a piece of paper that doesn't have reality on it, similar to his tariff poster board that he brought out at the beginning of April, doesn't mean that it's true. Again, these guys operate in this reality of what they've created, and that's just the way everyone else has to live. And that's why you've got propaganda outlets like Fox News doing this. There's a reason why, because they're part of the whole process. Matter of fact, it's not just Jesse Waters, it's also Sean Hannity. Same thing.
More, take a look.
It looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
And coming up, we'll have more from the president's visit to the Fed. Plus, is Steve More? Take a look.
Just no context for how that conversation actually went. So if you give the quote unquote facts that Donald Trump tosses out there and there's nothing behind that, and then you omit all of the actual facts that were given, or even if you want to have it as a discussion, be like, is Jerome Powell right or is Donald Trump right? You would probably present both of their cases and adjudicate that Donald Trump is right because, you know, they carry water for him. But since you cut that part out, that's an automatic like admission that you're on the wrong side of this, and you have to cut out actual information to make sure that people don't see the reality of it, because you're pitching a particular point of view that is not based in reality. It's how these things work. And as long as people keep buying into it, because as they've told everyone from the second this guy rolled into politics, don't trust anybody else but me. If you trust anybody else but me, and you'll actually have some reality and conclusions that don't fit what I want you to believe. That's how he's got these folks following him around off of cliffs every day, because they watch people like Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters. There's also other folks within this administration that are apparently carrying this same water, carrying this same lie. But what they're upset about, the reasons why he's going after him on this completely unrelated issue, because the issue that they actually care about is the fact that Jerome Powell won't lower interest rates as Donald Trump, one, at the same time, talks about how the economy is booming. It's amazing, but why won't he lower rates? We'll get to the more details of when in normal times, if the economy is booming, there's no reason for the Fed to lower rates. That's when things are going wrong. Which one is it? You got to choose one or the other, but they don't want to say things are going badly and that inflation is increasing. They don't want to say that part, but they do want to say everything is amazing, but also lower rates so we can look even better in the face of reality. Here's Scott Turner in his administration trying to push that narrative, but he gets some basic facts wrong because, you know, he's in the Trump administration.
You see what's going on in the economy. You see what the president and Congress is doing to bring our fiscal house back in order. And so to me, it's being negligent. It's almost a rebellion, if you will. In 2018, Powell brought down interest rates during the Biden administration. Right. And then now you have, he won't even bring it down when the economy is thriving. And so I don't understand it, but I think that responsibility and transparency and the president, as you know, is going over to the Fed today.
Yeah, well, we'll see if next week at the meeting, Jay Powell keeps bringing up tariffs.
Yeah.
And
you see what's going.
That's their problem. Maria Bartiromo, who's sitting there as this guy, Scott Turner, talks about how Jerome Powell lowered the Fed the interest rates in 2018 for Joe Biden. I just want to continue to recap what timelines are. In 2020 is when Donald Trump lost the election. In 2021 is when his mob descended onto the Capitol to try and kill people because he lost the election of 2020. In order for him to lose a re-election in 2020, he has to be in office previous to that. Previous to that is 2016 to 2020. In the middle of 2016 to 2020 is 2018, the year that this idiot said that Jerome Powell lowered the interest rate for Joe Biden, who was in office from 2021 up until the beginning of end of 2024. Again, maybe I have to repeat it. 2018 comes before 2020 when Donald Trump lost. In 2018, it's impossible for someone to lower the interest rate, Jerome Powell, for Joe Biden, who the fuck wasn't in office yet. When are we going to find just listen and pay attention to normal reality? Just normal reality. Like, these lies are so blatant and easy to debunk, but we just go along with it because, again, if you're listening and watching Fox News, you'll hear Maria Bartiromo, who's supposed to be the journalist in the room. So if there's a politician that comes to lie to push this agenda, she's supposed to say 2018. Wait a second. 2018, it couldn't have been when Jerome Powell lowered rates for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden wasn't in office. Lies. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of this. So in the back end of that same meeting, Donald Trump was asked more about what it is that Jerome Powell could do to make him happier. And of course, he brings up lowering rates, but then he goes into the reasons why, because Jerome Powell keeps telling him it's because of those tariffs. So in order to try to mitigate that problem, because his tariffs are a disaster, he's trying to push this whole deal he's had with Japan as something that's big and has actually flipped the script on the idea of his tariffs charging everyone more money and leading to more inflation. Check this out. Watch how he goes through this whole thing.
Are there things the chairman can say to you today that would make you back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. Other than that, what can I tell you? The country's doing really well. I just briefed the chairman on the deal we made with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit. That way they have a little bit lower tariff. And they also opened their country to free trade, which nobody thought was even a possibility. And we get a zero tariff in the free trade. We don't pay tariffs, and they're going to pay 15% on everything they send into our country. So it's great. But they put up, as you could call it, seed money. Let's call it seed money. You could call it anything you want, but it's a total of $550 billion. So nobody thought any of that was possible, and it's wonderful. And we're doing pretty well with the European Union, likewise. And we have some others. They're all really big, and our country's going to make a lot of money. We would be helped if interest rates would come down, but we're going to see how the board rules on that soon. I'd love to see them come down a lot, but we have a country that's thriving.
Got a country that's thriving, best economy of all time, golden age. Things are amazing. Everything is wonderful. So we need to bring those rates down. We're going to get to more about the whole deal with Japan that he was talking about. But I just want to remind you guys, because again, it's not like he doesn't have the information. And if he doesn't know the information, which obviously he doesn't know much of anything, he could listen to the guy who's talking about why he hasn't lowered interest rates yet, and maybe try and create some kind of agenda that would help that happen rather than just forcing it. Here's Jerome Powell previously. I believe this was in June. Yeah, late June, he said this.
If you just look at the basic data and don't look at the forecast, you would say that we would have continued cutting. The difference, of course, is at this time, all forecasters are expecting pretty soon that some significant inflation will show up from tariffs. Now, and we can't just ignore that, but we're just saying, let's wait and see more. That's all we're doing. And if you will have noticed, a substantial majority of the committee has written down rate cuts in the remaining 4 years, for meetings this year. So it's just a question of being prudent and careful. But at a time when the labor market is still strong, we don't see weakness in the labor market. If we did, that would change things. We're going to continue to adapt as the data adapt. But that is the difference between then and now. Then inflation was forecasted to continue to come down. Here it's forecasted to go up by all forecasters. So, and again, we're not overreacting to that. We're just saying, hey, as long as the economy's strong, we can take a little bit of a pause here. And that's what we're doing. And again, continue to adapt as the data comes in. If we see data that suggests that inflation's not going to produce big increases, that would matter. And if we saw the labor market weakening, that would matter too. But we don't see those things.
He's even giving dude credit for a decent labor market. And again, this is the end of June, right before the report came out of talking about the inflation, I believe 2 to 2.5% more. So they're waiting and seeing. And as he waited to see, he's seeing that inflation is increasing. So why would he do such a thing? Again, you just have to pay attention, or you have to actually have a concern for the American people rather than just for himself, and trying to artificially make his policies be seen as something that's great when it doesn't make any sense in that whole thing. There was a CNBC reporter who also talked to Russ Vought, again, one of the authors of Project 2025 that they said they never heard of and they never had no affiliation with. They just, appointed all the people that were a part of creating that document and that plan for a white supremacist takeover of the country, fascist supremacist takeover of the country. They just put all those people in place. And now they're on TV acting like they had nothing to do with this whole plan that people were talking about, read, and saw the details of as it's now being carried out. Russ Vought went on TV and tried to defend this too. I would go to him, but all he said was some of the same stuff, that they're just watching for the Fed very closely to lower those rates. And that also, by the way, as the CNBC reporter asked him this basic, economic question, usually the Fed would lower rates when the economy, is doing badly. He just glossed right by that point. I would rather show you guys Howard Lutnick talk about this Japan deal, because I don't think enough people are really looking deep into this, because I had speculation in the beginning when he talked about this whole deal, when he announced it, I believe it was on Tuesday. But again, I'm no economist. I just read like 2 articles, and this has nothing to do with being an economist. I read the details of the bill. I said this quote deal that they had with Japan, and I discovered that it's really not that much of a deal. Here's Howard Lutnick lying about it, though.
Mr. Secretary, when it comes to the Japan deal, the $550 billion in investment, we were trying to grapple with this a bit yesterday. Do we have specifics around where that's coming from, where it's going, what timelines, what metrics, what they're going to be held to? I'm just trying to understand a bit more around what is obviously a very large number.
So the key is, this is not regular foreign investment. This is not Toyota building a plant in America. That's what normally people think about. This is literally the Japanese government itself saying to Donald Trump, we will provide Donald Trump and the American people $550 billion on projects you choose. And we will give you 90% of the profits, America. So basically, Donald Trump can pick the projects, and we are working the details out now. We're doing documentation right now. But here's an example. Donald Trump says, look, we don't make generic antibiotics in America. We don't make antibiotics. So let's go build those factories. Let's go invest $15 billion, and let's take care of generic antibiotics. And bang, the Japanese will finance it for us. It doesn't cost us money. And those profits, 90% of the profits stay in America. 10% go back to the Japanese to pay their cost of funding. And that's it. We don't have any obligation to pay anything other than 90-10 split. So
who could deny that kind of deal? Japan literally is giving you $550 billion for you to take 90% of profits from that $550 billion investment into the country. And these Japanese companies and this Japanese government, who's a part of this whole deal, want nothing in return except for 10% of their money. And in other words, they're just giving us money because, That's how other countries are successful in any kind of trade deals. So you may ask yourself the question, what incentive does these Japanese leaders have to make this kind of deal where Donald Trump is walking off acting like he just robbed them of $550 billion? I asked that question too, and there's some answers if you actually wanted them. One of them is from Axios. Here's a report about the big picture of this deal. A reported $550 billion investment commitment from Japan would reflect a massive surge in the nation's financial exposure to the United States. But no one, either the Japanese or US government, has really articulated key details about how it would really work. Remember, they had this same problem when they had this deal they had with the UK? No details were given. Have you heard more details since, or has it been 2 weeks yet? More, in U.S. officials' description of the commitments, President Trump would have the discretion to direct the investment funds, Japanese money, and the U.S. would receive 90% of the profits, as Lutnick lied about. It's unclear what legal entities on either the Japanese or U.S. side would be involved, or what would be in it for the Japanese companies if they have neither control over the investments nor a financial return. We have this weird assumption that other countries don't know how money works and don't know how investment works and don't know how to make money because, you're not the United States of America. So when these deals happen, the point is to make some money, not give it away. One more slide from this whole thing Axios was talking about. Japan is already the single largest source of foreign direct investment into the U.S., with a cumulative capital of $754 billion deployed as of last year. Not just last year, as of last year, over a longer period of time. And it's been rising rapidly, nearly doubling over the last decade. So they are putting more money and investments into the country, but that's not just to give it away. Axios points this out as a reality check. Let me show you guys this part. Let me go ahead and share this because I want you guys to see this so you don't just think I'm taking this off of some kind of thing I wrote. We're at the point of the reality check. So that has been driven by Japanese companies voluntarily making investments on which they expect to earn a handsome return. So think of the Toyota manufacturing plant in Georgetown, Kentucky. It reflects about $10 billion in investment as of early last year. $10 billion of investment, not giveaway, right? You expect something back. So here's the last line that you guys should really pay attention to as they're talking about it. Everything's going to happen in 5 seconds. But those kinds of projects don't spin up overnight. The initial groundbreaking on the Toyota plant, again, that's $10 billion investment. That was in 1986 is when that started. It's almost 30 years ago. Sorry, almost 40 years ago. Jeez. 86. Almost 40 years ago, they started that process of that investment of $10 billion into that groundbreaking plant in Georgetown, Kentucky. But we're supposed to believe that all of these investments, number one, are going to happen overnight, as this takes time. And also that after those investments of all this money that they be funneling into the United States is just being given to us. That's what they expect you to believe. I have a better idea. Just don't believe their lies. Like I've said before, when we're talking about the Epstein stuff and we're talking about these trade deals and we're talking about foreign policy and we're talking about what they're doing with waste, fraud, and abuse when it comes to this bill that they just passed, none of it is based in reality. It's all lies. And it's all about taking in more money. So what mechanisms, I've asked this before, what mechanisms are in place after they get this $550 billion of giveaway money from Japan? What mechanisms are in place where that's going to actually come and benefit all these regular everyday people who are saying, look at all the billions of dollars we're bringing in. Where is it going? Where's the billions of dollars going? What programs and what situations and agenda items is this administration now rolling out that's going to directly benefit your life with that $550 billion, even if it was on the up and up, even if they weren't lying about what they're lying about? Do you know? How does it work? Because that bill that they're touting, that puts all the mechanisms in place to keep any and all money that they deem away from you. Matter of fact, the money that you already deserve, that you've already paid into the system, they're keeping. That's what that bill did. You know, I know the economy stuff and the money stuff and the investment talk and the tariff talk and trade deals, all is very boring stuff in general. But it's pretty straightforward when you see how blatantly and juvenile these guys lie about stuff. I don't have to be a smart guy to understand how this works, especially since the people that are trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes are completely stupid. But we just, We just believe them. Let's move on to Ron DeSantis. I'm not sure if you guys saw this. I posted this yesterday on my Instagram. It was one of the funniest things that happened, but it's about a very serious topic. Ron DeSantis was trying to talk about how much he loved him some Hulk Hogan growing up, because Hulk Hogan just died yesterday. Yeah. So as he was talking about it, there was someone who stood up and didn't want to hear that anymore. Check this out.
And the fact that he was from a Tampa Bay area when I'm growing up there, I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy lives in our area. And, back then when they would do these big events like WrestleMania, you could go to it, which obviously I wasn't in a position to be able to go to. But they didn't have even pay-per-view where you would pay for it to come on the cable. They had closed circuit. So you could go to like a venue and they would play it on like a really big screen. And so like the first few WrestleManias, I think, were like that. And I remember WrestleMania 3. He was up. Hey, stop. Get out of here. 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 So you used to have the closed circuit. So you would go and you would have that, and then you'd just kind of watch it. So I just remember like WrestleMania 3, he's fighting Andre the Giant. And look, I was a kid. I didn't know that it was choreographed, right? I mean, I was like really worried.
I think the story has been derailed here, Ron. Fuck you and fuck you holding up with this pedophile, and fuck that pedophile, and fuck every... Anyway, so I was a kid, and bro, I thought Andre the Giant was gonna squish the Hulkster. This guy's a complete clown. How is it you're not ready to expect someone to finally stand up to you when you put your face in front of cameras and in front of a podium and want to talk like everything is normal? Right now, as leaky alligator Alcatraz that he was a part of trying to put together and build because he kneels to Donald Trump, while that's all going on, he's going to talk about the Hulkster and how he grew up loving the Hulkster because, he was a gullible kid who really thought he was getting beat up. Well, in real life, as a 46-year-old, you're really getting your ass beat by Donald Trump, and it's not making yourself look any better as you protect, again, as that guy pointed out, an effing pedophile. So, again, these guys just don't care. If we think they care about polling or if they care about what their base is saying, they're showing us every day they don't care about any of that stuff. Mike Johnson's trying to play both sides of this whole thing, though, as they still could continue to talk about how there's nothing to see here with Jeffrey Epstein. Again, as he got rid of any more proceedings or votes that could be on this, Mike Johnson wants to flip the script and act like he's on board for actually releasing some of this. I think the pressure is getting to him, but that doesn't mean he's honest about it. Watch what he said.
And to the point, when the Trump Justice Department said there were more than 1,000 victims, for people who knew this case very, very well, did a lot of investigative work on it, that number surprised them. High number.
Yeah.
Meaning that to their minds, investigative reporters and others, there have to be accomplices, uncharged accomplices, and that aspect of justice is still missing.
Yes, and it's a great concern to us. I mean, we want full transparency. We want everybody who is involved in any way with the Epstein evils, let's call it what it was, to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. We want the full weight of the law on their heads.
But when the Justice Department said in that same 2-page memo, there's no reason to pursue further prosecutions, many said, how can those two things be properly aligned?
These are good questions. I don't know. I've never seen the Epstein evidence. It wasn't in my lane. But I have the same concern and question that a lot of people do. And look, I think the president...
This is not a hoax, in other words.
Oh, it's not a hoax. Of course not.
Mike Johnson said that the whole Epstein thing is not a hoax because he's trying to stay somewhat in the decent graces of enough people he can continue to lie to them about everything else. But at this particular point, he's saying there's no hoax. There's no hoax. There's no Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Remember that line? Remember that moniker that Donald Trump is trying to make a thing and actually thinks that it's a good thing to say? Because again, Mike Johnson's boss and Donald Trump, the one that he does everything for, he just posted this. I believe it was just last night. The radical left Democrats are doing everything in their power to distract and obfuscate from our great 6 months of service to America, results of which many are saying is the best 6 months in presidential history. Who's saying that? Is there somebody named Minnie? They have gone absolutely crazy and are playing another Russia hoax. But this time, under the guise of what we will call the Jeffrey Epstein scam. Did he switch it to scam instead of hoax? That must be the difference. All things are revealed, and I hope will take place quickly. You will see that it is yet another Democrat con job. Hopefully, the grand jury files will put an end to this hoax in all capitals again. Everyone should see what is there, but people who are innocent should not be hurt. Do you guys get the sense that as he keeps talking about how credible information and no one should be hurt that shouldn't be, he's just talking about himself there. But we've got a scam and a hoax. He better have a conversation with Mike Johnson, because Mike Johnson just said that it's definitely not a hoax. Maybe tomorrow he'll say that it's a scam because Donald Trump got a chance to get his hands on him and said, why are you defying me? So as this whole thing rolls out, don't forget where we are. Donald Trump has pissed off his whole base. He's talked about how we don't need to release these files because there's nothing there, after Pam Bondi said everything is there. That is after Kash Patel and Dan Bongino sat in front of Maria Bartiromo with their eyes wide open and were afraid to say anything about it, lied about things when it comes to whether or not Jeffrey Epstein actually committed suicide, have a very shaky evidence, moved past all that, and now we're talking about Barack Obama. And number two, what we're talking about now is how Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former personal attorney, went to visit with Ghislaine Maxwell. That was just yesterday, and I believe it's continuing on until today. I want to show you guys something. After he met with Ghislaine Maxwell, who people are assuming must secretly and privately and have nothing to do with anyone else seeing or hearing any of these conversations, people are wondering, yo, this sounds like this is a setup for her to say anything you guys want her to say, that so she can get off of her 20-year sentence that she's got for being the right-hand woman of Jeffrey Epstein and taking part in these human trafficking and sexual exploitation of children. So she's in jail for that. Todd Blanche, who's apparently supposed to be a part of the Department of Justice, actually went and was more acting like Donald Trump's attorney to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, who said this. Come on, dang.
We had a very productive day today with the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and Ghislaine Maxwell. First, we want to thank the Deputy Attorney General for being so professional with all of us and for meeting with us. He took a full day and asked a lot of questions, and Ms. Maxwell answered every single question. She never stopped. She never invoked a privilege. She never declined to answer. She answered all the questions truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability. And that's all the comment we're going to have today about the meeting. We don't want to comment about the substance of the meeting for obvious reasons, and we'll go from there. So thank you all so much.
Will you guys be coming back for a second day?
We're not going to comment on that now. We had a very productive.
No other comments, no conversations. We're just going to talk about how we had a great and productive meeting where, she's going to tell them everything that they need to hear, that they need to sift through and talk to her about as well, in order to potentially help her ass out. This is just supposed to be on the up and up. Remember, I talked about Todd Blanche met with this guy. This guy's name is David Oscar Marcus. He also has a podcast, and I'm not sure if people are, are paying attention to this, but Todd Blanche, the guy that just secretly met with him and his client who's in prison, who's been convicted of being a part of this whole sex ring. This is them back in, this was posted at least in July, but I want to show you guys how close they are. Good buddies they are. Maybe they may work together at some point.
David, and I mean, in all seriousness to you, I know a lot of people that have worked with you. I know a lot of people who know you very well. I now consider you a friend and someone who I know pretty well. You are by far the best out there, and I'll always say yes to this podcast. It would be the first three-peat.
Let's do a three-peat.
But David, and I mean,
Yo, they're so tight, they're going to have a three-peat of podcasts together. Maybe we'll do a podcast as we interview Ghislaine Maxwell and you secretly in prison, and as she walks back in, as we saw some videos being posted, I believe by CNN and some other outlets, for walking back into prison for her 20-year sentence for being a part of a child sex trafficking ring with a big-ass box. I don't know the situation. I don't know the protocol. I don't know what could be in that box or what's the purpose of it. No one knows what the president of the United States, who promised his people that he's going to get to the bottom of this whole thing, told her secretly and in private. I'm sorry. His deputy within the Department of Justice went and talked to with his best friend that he said he's really close with and do anything for now. Will go into the Department of Justice to talk about behind closed doors what they're going to do. So whatever it is that happens, let's go ahead and preface this. There's a reason why. I'm going to say it every day if I need to. There's a reason why you want to expose liars for who they are when they're lying about anything, especially when they're politicians who are trying to lead the country down whatever path that they've obviously said is just going to be beneficial to them. When you identify liars who've literally lied about everything, there's no reason to trust them on anything else that's already been seen as completely shady by their own people, their own backers, their own base that he already gave 2 middle fingers to. So why do we have any reason to trust that anything that comes out of this situation, that they've realized the Obama distractions haven't worked enough, so now they have to try and just blow by it and say, forget it. Let's just go through a process of getting things the way we want it, and then we'll move on and people will just have to accept it. Why believe any of it? Why pay attention to it? Well, because the propaganda is pushing even further than that. Over on Newsmax, even, I guess they're trying to catch the train that Fox News has already been on. Greg Kelly, I want you guys to listen to the way he talks about Ghislaine Maxwell now that this has gone down. Look at the shift. Don't forget who Ghislaine Maxwell is and listen to the way Greg Kelly fawns over how amazing she is.
Blanche is the Deputy Attorney General, the #2 ranking official in the Justice Department, and he's about to meet with Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend in prison, Ghislaine Maxwell, to find out what she knows. Let's find out, what is this all about? And she's also been subpoenaed by the Oversight Committee. I think this is great. I do have a feeling that she just might be a victim. She just might be. There was a rush to judgment. There was a lot of chaos there for a while. All right. Granted, she hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, and I know that's apparently not good, but she's in jail for how long now? 20 years, a 20-year sentence. Well, Alan Dershowitz is one of the greatest attorneys who ever lived, and he has this to say about the Ghislaine Maxwell situation, speaking with Newsmax veteran Eric Bolling.
Should Ghislaine Maxwell be behind bars?
She shouldn't be, but she is. She is really serving Jeffrey Epstein's sentence after he committed suicide. There was no one else to prosecute because there was no real information against anybody else. And so they went after her and they sentenced her to a sentence that would have been appropriate for Epstein, but not at all appropriate for her. And so she's appealing now, and I hope the appeal will be granted. She deserves to be out.
She deserves to be out. And maybe she never deserved to be in there in the first place. Now, how could you say such a thing? I mean, these are perverts. These are child molesters. We've heard that from whom? From the media? From prosecutors? Prosecutors prosecuted President Trump over nothing. I don't know, but I'm skeptical of everything and everybody these days, and you should be too.
You should be skeptical of everything now, says Greg Kelly. He also said Ghislaine Maxwell is a victim. She's a potential victim to those dirty prosecutors. Those prosecutors. Why isn't the people in the Justice Department prosecuting then? You know, those filthy prosecutors that are now having this secret backdoor conversation with the defense attorney for Ghislaine Maxwell to come up with some kind of plan to help everyone out somehow. And this guy quoted Alan Dershowitz, went to a separate clip of Alan Dershowitz talking about how she shouldn't be behind bars. Alan Dershowitz has already been named as being a part of this whole thing. He's been in the files already. We don't know to which extent. We don't know what reasons why he's in those files, but we do know he's there, and he does not want Ghislaine Maxwell in jail where she's rotting, getting upset, maybe getting a little desperate after being, as Greg Kelly pointed out, subpoenaed by Congress to come talk. So before that goes down, let's get there and talk to her. Someone who's in full support of this whole administration and this process, the two of you who still care and think that this guy is not lying about this, what reason would they have to go talk to Ghislaine Maxwell in prison before she's finally subpoenaed to have to talk publicly to everyone else about what it is that she knows and being grilled in certain ways that may take different angles to debunk her lies if she tells them? and expose that she's just trying to get some kind of sweetheart deal. Or, I mean, you can't even call it a sweetheart deal, a Donald Trump pardon, which obviously comes based off of absolutely nothing except for loyalty. It's the number one thing that matters to him. The conversation is very easily about that. If you want to prove everyone wrong, make it public. Talk publicly about these things. Have a Fox News special on it. Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell talk. But these prosecutors can't be trusted. Greg Kelly doesn't want to talk to anyone else because all he feels is there must be something wrong here. So again, as I pointed out, Congress is calling her to testify. One Democratic representative, Robert Garcia, talked about what it is that they want to get from her or what is that they expect from her. And I tend to agree with his perspective here.
I mean, Miss Maxwell, as we should understand, is implicated essentially as a sexual predator with Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand person, did horrific things. She is not a good person. She has lied under oath. And so all of that needs to be put on the table as we seek her testimony. And what's very important is we know that she likely wants a pardon from Donald Trump. And so what she is going to tell the DOJ is, of course, very concerning to us, which is why it's so important that we get the actual Epstein documents and files, because anything that she says in her deposition to the DOJ needs to then be corroborated with what's actually in the factual documents. And so that actual deposition that we will hold, that the Oversight Committee will hold with her, that is separate than the one that Trump and the DOJ is doing, is going to be critical in actually getting facts. And I myself will be at that deposition as head of our Oversight Committee to ensure that that process is actually one that's centered on justice and actually focused on the truth.
She was.
So there he is. At least want some kind of accountability, or at least if they're going to do this, they get the correct questions in. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be another like avalanche of reality or fakeness or just manipulated information, misinformation, direct disinformation to make sure people don't really see or hear what's going on. You have to listen to the guy that you're supposed to trust, which is the biggest liar in the country. I don't know what's going to come of that whole thing. I'm not really sure. I guess the effectiveness of it could be at least to have other questions where we have all of it out there, despite what it is that she may or may not say. I can only speculate what it is that she may do in response to this, what it is that they told her, because again, it's all been done in secret. So all that's left is speculation. So after we still don't know how it went down, they can just say, you don't know what happened because it was done behind closed doors. Maybe you shouldn't have done it behind closed doors. Here's Tim Burchett talking about it. And this particular line has been scrutinized very specifically, what Tim Burchett is saying here. And the way I heard it is a little bit different. I'm curious if you guys hear it the same way I do.
The government is saying in its filings that they don't trust her. She's a liar.
No, she is a liar, and she's a dirtbag. And
So then why subpoena her if you can't trust her?
Well, because the one thing we got holding over her head is if we find out she lies, she goes back to her original sentence, and that's looking at lifetime. And if she's looking at maybe parlaying this into reducing her sentence, then we could have some leverage there.
The government is.
So he said if she's using this to try and parlay this into reducing her sentence, I'm not sure I think there would be a reduction in her sentence. It'd be a full-on pardon. I'm not sure if the way people saw this, I'm going to give you the first pitch of what people have been saying, because people are upset and saying, look, Tim Burchett is talking about how he's admitting that they're looking for a way to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell or lower her sentence based off of the things that she may say that are beneficial to them. I took it as him saying, as we get her out here to try to lessen our sentence from whatever names or information that they claim that she's going to give, that as we grill her, we'll be able to have other information that could potentially show she's lying, and then we got her and she can't use that to reduce her sentence. So, which makes it sound more normal, more of what the oversight of these committees are supposed to do. So I didn't see it as bad as many other folks did. They saw it as him inviting her, trying to testify, or at least trying to have this deal with potentially the Department of Justice to then tell them what they want to hear so she can reduce her sentence. The one thing he did admit, though, that is on the bad end of this is, sure, the Trump administration is looking to reduce her sentence based off information given to them, and he's just going to be a check on that. That's like, if my reading of it is that, then Tim Burchett is saying, again, a right thing just before he says the wrong thing. He's been doing this for weeks now. He wants the information to come out, but he doesn't want the information to come out. He wants the list to come out, but he doesn't want the list to come out. He thinks Donald Trump is lying about this whole thing. He doesn't trust Pam Bondi, but at the same time, Pam Bondi has a sharp learning curve that she has to build and that she has to figure out before she really gets her feet wet and goes on the run. So we never know where Tim Burchett's going to be. I feel like this is one of those moments where he's trying to sound like he's on the up and up, when by Monday he'll be talking again about how completely believable Glenn Maxwell is, how she's a wonderful witness, and I don't understand why she's in prison. That's the back and forth that Tim Burchett has been pushing. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's just Tim Burchett acknowledging that he's looking to help with this kind of deal. I don't know. But it is a curious thing that people in power like Tim Burchett aren't calling out how blatantly horrific this is and how it makes no sense for Todd Blanche to be meeting in secret behind closed doors. And as they talk to her later, who knows, we'll compare notes. Somebody tell me I'm wrong. I'm ready to be told I'm wrong. It's okay. Then I'll just tell you that you're wrong too, and we'll go right back and forth. I want to move on to someone else, but it's a little bit off the same vein as Tim Vane, off the same vein as Tim Burchett. He's saying the right things, in my opinion, about this whole thing and how information needs to come out. Sorry, you guys, it's 5 minutes to the top of the hour. We're going to be here for another 15 minutes. So, take your plans as they may be. If you guys are taking off, glad to see you here. Tell John I say hi, and then I'm going over a little bit, and I'll be there in a few minutes. But for all you guys staying and hanging around, all you guys that actually party on a Friday, I'm glad you're staying in. We're going to go to Lisa Murkowski, who's saying, again, some revealing, clear-headed things about this whole Jeffrey Epstein situation. But what I want to talk to you guys more fully as we get through this is how she's also realized that Donald Trump has played her. So I'm really trying to figure out why she thinks she's going to get anywhere with these types of comments.
Do you believe that the administration has let this get out of control? How do you see this?
I suppose it's easy to do after action and to be critical from where we're sitting. But it seems to me that it has occupied all of the airspace here in Washington, D.C. You just saw the House go out because they didn't want to deal with that. The president is trying to move to other news, but that doesn't seem to be holding. Everybody is occupied by this. And in the meantime, we've got serious work that we need to be finishing up here in the Senate. We're in the midst of appropriations right now. Just deal with the Epstein thing once and for all. I think if they had done it earlier on and moved on to other things, maybe we wouldn't be in this place where everyone is now thinking about, what's the next big conspiracy behind all this. So it's really easy to be critical and say they should have done it, but it sure would have made things easier on the legislative front if the Congress weren't being swept into this whole swirl.
That sounds like you think they should just release everything.
Just be done with it. Be done with it. If in fact there's no there for the president, get it out there. Just get it out there and be done.
She doesn't seem to be very trustworthy of this whole process and what is that they're covering up. Just get it out there. If there's no there, get it out there. Sounds like common sense things. She even talked about the Congress plan to talk to Glenn Maxwell and whether or not she's going to be a trustworthy witness. Again, Lisa Murkowski's on point, isn't she? Watch.
A book about hearing stories of sexual assault from women in your home state, and you write very candidly about that. It's one of the most probably gripping parts of the book. You obviously write about your vote when it came to Justice Brett Kavanaugh. But what the White House is doing now is they're sending the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche to go meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is obviously convicted of child sex trafficking. Some girls, I should say, as young as 14 years old. Do you think that they would be better served by talking to the victims rather than the woman who was helping Jeffrey Epstein sex traffic these young girls?
I think if what they're really trying to do is to convey how awful these crimes are, then yes, you do not have it be presented in what some would say or suggest is a one-sided way.
Yeah, do you find her credible?
I don't know that I find her credible.
Took her minutes to get to that point, that this convicted 20 years sentenced woman who was a part of a child sex trafficking ring, she's trying to figure out if she's credible or not. I mean, I guess all criminals can eventually fess up and start telling the real truth, but considering she's completely intertwined with all these folks who are complete liars that are running the country, there's no reason to. Anyways, so she's still saying, I guess, correct things. She even has one more clip here when she's talking about how this is so disruptive to Congress. This is a big deal that leads to what it is that she had to go ahead and admit to. So watch this last part of Murkowski and her, I guess, her commitment to wanting to actually get something done.
Does it give you any pause with the reporting tonight that he was told his name is included in it? That doesn't mean that he did anything wrong, but do you think that is a factor in why they have been hesitant to put more information
So
out there?
hard to determine what may or may not have been a factor, but I don't think it's any secret. Certainly the president has not made it a secret that that years and years ago, he was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and that was a time prior. They had a falling out, and there has been no engagement since. But so if there's really nothing there, again, just put it out. Get this behind us. What you're seeing happening now is the country is talking about this. Well, at the same time, the Congress has so much work that we need to be doing. We don't need to be caught up in the chatter about what is in, what is not in, but we can't get to it because of this. I view it as a political distraction. And I think if the administration wants to get beyond it, if President Trump wants to get beyond it, just get this stuff out there and let's move forward.
It's a distraction. Congress can't get the important work done. What kind of work is Congress doing that has anything to do with getting work done outside of just, kowtowing to Donald Trump and doing whatever the hell it is that he wants? The work that they needed to get done, he doesn't need them anymore. He got his bill passed where he can steal more money in every kind of way possible from the American people. Her job is done for him. He doesn't need her. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you why he doesn't need her anymore. And maybe a revelation that she then had. Remember Lisa Murkowski? Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska was one of those last deciding votes that gave Republicans in the Senate their win to go ahead and send that bill back to the House, who, of course, is going to rubber stamp that whole thing and send it as a law up to President Trump to do what he's going to do. Remember, she was talking about how she didn't really like that bill, but she did it because they were going to give some incentives to people in her state, and she had to take it. She had to take it. She hated the bill, but she had to take it. Let's see what came of that. It's an article that points out how well things are going now. So frustrating. Ahead of the bill's passage earlier this month, Murkowski had co-sponsored an amendment to ease the phase-out of tax credits for solar and wind energy under the Biden-era Inflation Reduction Act. She wanted to ease that phase out of those tax credits. The Trump administration, of course, wants to get rid of all those things. Her measure would ensure a 12-month window for clean energy projects, which would end in 2027. These tax credits would help to alleviate a looming energy crisis along Alaska's rail belt, the electrical grid that serves roughly 75% of the population of the whole damn state. That's due to these declining resources of natural gas. Trump threw a wrench in that agreement Friday when he issued an executive order to end market distorting subsidies for green energy projects. Now, this order directs the Scott Bessent to take actions to strictly enforce the termination of the clean electricity production and investment of tax credits. So that deal that she got, he came in and said, "Hey, Scott, I need you to axe that whole agreement that we told Lisa Murkowski that if we give that to her, she should be on board to sign off on this bill that she openly said is a disaster for the country, except for the people in her state." Well, now those people in her state that she sold out for, they're not getting it either. There's a lot more. I have a lot of reading to give you guys. Now, Murkowski claims that she and her pals were duped. Do I feel like the administration was not being upfront with us? Yes. is what she told the Anchorage Daily News. The administration wasn't upfront with her. I wish there was someone who had Trump derangement syndrome during the campaign, since this guy first walked into politics, that could have told you that Donald Trump never honors his deals, that Donald Trump leaves people hanging, that Donald Trump goes into a city, destroys things, leave garbage and trash everywhere, has police forces come out and give him some kind of protection, and then he leaves them and doesn't pay the bill. He stiffs people all the time. I feel like he's almost bragged about it because that's a good businessman. But in this case, as he stiffs her, she's worried and doesn't understand why this happened to her because, she was working for her people. More quotes. Lisa Murkowski went on to tell the Anchorage Daily News, "I feel cheated. I feel like we made a deal, and then hours later, a deal was made to somebody else." Who do you think he made that later deal with? Himself. He made that deal with you because he was never going to honor that deal. I'm going to run through these. There's more. There's more. This is embarrassing for her. She torched Trump's order as reckless, claiming that it directly goes against what he signed into law earlier this month with the budget. We already know that we know that already, Lisa. We told you actually that that's what was going to happen, just like everything else that's happening. So maybe starting at this point, like start right now, like late July, start now as we go into the weekend, start now. And so when someone tells you that Donald Trump is who he said he is, or I'm sorry, is lying when he doesn't say exactly who he is, start believing it because you just got played. You guys want to see that video of her being all stern with the reporter that asked her why she sold out to everyone else, and she walked down that hallway and stared at him like she's a badass? Not a badass when Donald Trump is using you like this. Remember this?
My response is I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska. And I live up to that every single day. I fight for my state's interests, and I make sure that Alaskans are understood. I advocated for my state's interests. I will continue to do that, and I will make no excuses for doing that. Do I like this bill? No, because I tried to take care of Alaska's interests. But I know that in many parts of the country, there are Americans that are not going to be advantaged by this bill. I don't like that.
Is she going to go in front of cameras? Is she going to have a press conference? Is she going to have a recorded message on her Twitter account where she says, "I remember I told you guys that I agree with, that I'm just trying to stand up for my constituents, that I don't like this bill, and I know it's going to harm a lot of Americans previous to this. I knew this, but I switched up on that and trusted Donald Trump, and now that he played me, I'm never going to trust him again." Is she going to say that? Is she going to say, and since I don't trust him anymore, all of the people of Alaska also shouldn't trust him because he played you too? My commitment to stand up for you and give middle fingers to the rest of the country was also returned as a middle finger right back to me. Therefore, going forward, I'm going to start off by not being a gullible piece of garbage that doesn't understand when someone's playing me as they've done their entire life. I'm going to finally figure it out. I'm going to finally see the guy who's a liar is a liar. And going forward, I'm going to stop being lied to. Not because my ego's bruised, which obviously it is. Not because of that, but because my job is to represent the people of this state. And as I was fooled into this agreement, I'm no longer representing the people of this state. And it's not just when it comes to these tax credits and all these things that she got played on. It also comes with funding for the federal education. You know how Linda McMahon, the WWE wife of the WWE exec and the founders of the whole wrestling corporation, how she's now the education department head, and she slashed and cut everything. Now that that's happening, I'm gonna show you guys what's going on in Alaska too, and in other states, other red states. More on Lisa Murkowski getting played. Lisa Murkowski said she's worried that the Trump administration's federal education funding freeze could mean closing schools in her home state. Quote, "Many of our school districts have already made really hard decisions about closing schools." That's what she said in the wake of these school district closings that are now suing the Trump administration for freezing more than $6 billion in congressionally authorized federal education funding nationwide. Both in Fairbanks and Anchorage, we've seen layoffs. And is she telling us some information that someone else didn't tell her before? That as they freeze money and as they shut down the Department of Education, like they said they were going to do when they were campaigning and screw everything up, when they said that and now that it's happening, are you surprised that you're seeing layoffs? Are you surprised that potential schools are closing as they shut down money, you know, the money that you depend on, that you voted against coming your way? More. Murkowski and 9 other Republican senators signed onto a letter last week. I'm going to say that first part again. Murkowski and 9 other Republican senators signed onto a letter last week requesting the Trump administration reverse the funding pause, which they said prompted the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, to unfreeze more than $1 billion in after-school and summer learning funding. So they clawed and scraped and got $1 billion back just for these are multiple Republicans in their states for summer programs and things like that, because they went straight to cutting that, directly and straight to cutting it. So now they're trying to claw it back. Here's more. I told you guys, sometimes reading just gets you the information, and a lot of people just don't do it. An OMB spokesperson said that the funds are under review for grossly misusing programs that promote radical left-wing agendas. That's their excuse for taking money away, and it's potentially closing down schools in Alaska, where Lisa Murkowski, a Republican, told her people that she's representing and helping them out. Murkowski slammed, I wouldn't say she slammed anything, slammed the administration for contending that districts in Alaska push programs with radical ideology. She said the programs are not woke or ideologically out of line. Well, I've got a little bit of news for you, Lisa. They don't think those programs are woke or ideologically out of line either. They just said that so they can take more money back. You know, just in case you're still trusting the guy that you just said played you and made a deal with someone else behind your back. I got more reading to do. Since the funding pause ensued on July 1st, here's another Republican. North Dakota Republican Senator John Hoeven said that he's been hearing from concerned educators in his state as well. Wild. It's weird. There's educators in all these Republican states. It's like, we need the money. We don't have any money here. Didn't you realize this is a red state? More from Hoeven. That Republican Hoeven was relieved when the after-school and summer learning grants were unfrozen because they too helped the workforce, he said. With funding for those programs secured, parents will no longer have to make other arrangements for their children, potentially missing work to do so. He says that was the one that was most timely, just getting that money back, timeliness for the summer programs that they took money from, because then people, in many cases, have to work, you know, because that's what one of the things that they're putting in place as far as taking people off of their Medicare is to make sure that you work more. So how are you going to work more, as these people want to do, because they're not lazy like Republicans claim Americans are? How are they going to work if they've got children that, again, this same administration is talking about, we need more white babies in this country. Please have more of them. In fact, not please, but if you happen to want any kind of choice in that, we're stripping that away from you because we want more white babies in this country. What they need is more people working. So forget whether or not you can put your children in any kind of summer programs while you then go work for the man. Forget that. You have to figure some other way around that. Maybe bring your kids to work one day. I'm sorry, every day until we go back to school, which might be closed because they're defunding those too. So what options do people have left? I don't know, but Republicans definitely trusted him. I got a couple more things to read. Bear with me because I'm sorry, this angered the hell out of me. More. So as the school year approaches, Murkowski stressed that the administration must move quickly, you know, because they care. She said, I don't want to call it cuts just yet because my hope is that they're just unpaused and that they're going to materialize. So what we've got from Lisa Murkowski, a senator from Alaska, is hope that maybe the Trump administration will stop doing what they're doing. Just a hope. I mean, no pushback for it, no forcing of it, no using your legislative powers, not flexing the powers of the legislative branch over the executive branch, just a hope that the dictator will have some kind of grace and stop doing what he's doing that benefits him. We'll see how that hope goes. she's still talking about how she's scared and everything now and how worried she is. That's Lisa Murkowski. Actually, I do want to show you guys that. I've showed it to you guys before, but I was going to skip it. But Lisa Murkowski is doing all this, and she's upset, and she's worried, and the education is going down. And before that, the deal that she made with Trump went down, and middle fingers flew in front of her face. All that's still happening. I'm going to show you guys something from the middle of April. When Lisa Murkowski was asked why she's not pushing back then, she could have been pushing back since this day, middle of April, all the way up to where it's almost now August, but she hasn't started pushing back yet. And matter of fact, she's folded more. But this might be the driving factor in her life.
What do you have to say to people who are afraid, or who represent people who are afraid? We are all afraid. Okay. It's quite a statement. But we are, we're in a time and a place where I don't know. I certainly have not. I have not been here before. And I'll tell you, I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice. Because retaliation is real, and that's not right.
Lisa Murkowski is afraid. She's afraid of retaliation because it's a real thing. She's afraid of doing anything. That was in April, bro. That was at a town hall where people weren't screaming at her. I'm not sure if they eventually got to that point. But since then, she still trusts Donald Trump. Since then, she said how she got played. Since then, it's a problem with all the schools, the public schools in her state. So what's her next move going to be? There's a track record of her trusting him when she shouldn't have, calling him out when she says she knows what he's about. Where is your foresight? Where is your mindset? Where is your concern about your job and what you're supposed to be doing? She's afraid. So if you're afraid and you have anxiety every time Donald Trump says something to you, or maybe when he posts something where he goes after one of your Republican colleagues who stepped out of line by saying the wrong 2 words, if you get afraid, follow it up by a post saying, I'm going to resign immediately. I'm ready to resign because I'm afraid. I would like someone to come in and represent the state that I love and I grew up in. I'd like for them to come and represent the people because I'm too afraid to do that. That's what Lisa Murkowski should do. Or start representing the people of your state. I have a question for you guys. It's 15 minutes after the hour. I know many of you guys cross over and go hang out with John Idarola on TDR. And a few of you guys have hung around. I'm glad you guys are here. Let's find out how many of you guys hang around for one more story. There's a reason why I was a few minutes late, you guys. I'm sorry, more than a few minutes late. It's because I had so many things I wanted to talk about. And this popped up on my radar. And as you, I don't know if you guys have noticed this yet, I'm in a bad mood over it. We're going to go into the weekend and try and have some kind of like recoup of our energies so we can come back and fight more. But this happens every day. I'm going to go to the immigration front and the mass deportation policies that this Nazi regime has been implementing. The fact that this has almost become normalized for people who aren't looking at it and experiencing it every day is the reasons why we need to see things like this. It was a man that was coming out of his immigration court hearing. His immigration court hearing from the same administration that was talking about how they want to make sure that people do things the right way, and we're going after violent criminals for their mass deportation plans. We already know all of it's bullshit. We already know it. But this is just more of an indication and illustration of the way they're treating people if they're the wrong skin tone and they want to act like this is the policy, the way that they pitched it would be when they got into office.
Amigo, não tem problema, amigo, eu não tenho problema, amigo. Hold on, P, man. Sorry. Move back. Out the way, boys. Out the way. You're gonna get knocked down. Move.
Armed, masked, unidentified people in garb that says they can do these types of things, which are completely against the law. They're just doing it. Did you see the fear on that guy's face? The reasons why they just do it without paying any attention to it, wearing dark sunglasses, is because there's this detachment from humanity. He doesn't matter as much. If their family member, if their kid, if their brother, their father, their son is snatched around like that for doing the right thing in the country that said do it this way, and then when you do it that way, they arrest you and slam you in some back room and start threatening anyone that's looking at them the wrong way, they'd have a connection to that problem. They don't have a connection to this problem because this problem is not theirs. This problem is for people that are beneath them, that aren't of the same value as them. This, while we watch the people who are apparently of higher value literally destroy the country and have no idea what it is that they're doing. They've openly said it. We've seen and heard videos of some of the people that have been appointed talk about how they have no clue what they're talking about. We've seen them in their actions as they've been put in place exhibit. They have no idea what they're doing and what they're talking about. But all they need to do is detach you from enough humanity to then allow you to see things like that and be okay with it. I'm gonna go to an even worse video. So trigger warning here for anyone. This woman in this particular video has a medical episode while these ICE agents are assaulting and attacking her in the streets while I assume it's her partner is filming and trying to do something about it as he catches threats. Again, she has a medical emergency as they're going after her.
You're doing this! Why are you doing this?
You're gonna be arrested as well? You'll be under arrested.
Yeah, I'm a U.S. citizen. Arrest me.
Don't get closer. Stay there. Stay there. Stay back.
Let it go! She's bad. Let her go. Let her go.
You don't stay there, you're gonna be arrested for
She's sick. She's sick.
You're gonna be arrested for interference.
She's sick. I'm here. She's sick.
Stay there.
She's bad. Call 911. Call 911. She's bad. She has a problem. My God, you're. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? They came from persecution, from dictatorship. I'm from Iran. I'm from Iran. Can you take me with them? They need me.
No, sir.
They need me.
You can stay there and you can record, but you can't go with us, okay?
مرجان اوکی میشه. اوکی میشه مرجان جان. I know you're doing your job. I know you're doing your job, but my arm is just... Seriously, you all guys came for one person?
What is her name?
Marjan. Seriously. Only 2 people is enough.
So this guy is supposed to keep his cool and then even have an empathetic voice. Come on, you guys. Why do you give so many people for this one woman who, by the way, has no issue with what they're doing here? I believe that was in LA because they took her then to UCLA Medical, at least from the caption there from the video that I got, and continue to have law enforcement hanging around her, not even allowing many healthcare folks in there to take care of her, or especially her partner there who was filming and trying to figure out what was going on. Who, as he pointed out, he's a refugee from Iran based off of his belief system, I believe his religion even. So those folks are beneath the people that are running the country. Those folks, as they see that woman, as some people pointed out, potentially having a seizure there on the ground after they attack her and her shoes get kicked off and they assault her on the ground like that, these dudes beating this woman on the ground, we're not supposed to fight back. They need to keep their identities safe in case people come and commit violence against ICE officials. ICE officials that are committing violence against innocent people and taking them up off the streets with absolutely no identification, roughing them up, and then threatening anyone else that wants to do something else about it. It's going to come to a head. I heard in some cases it has come to some head here and there. But if you keep on with the violence, the only thing that can be met with violence is violence. I remember George W. Bush, and we invaded Iraq in 2003. I remember George W. Bush, they were saying those lines like, these terrorists, only thing they know is violence. Like, they don't know negotiations and speaking and talking and diplomacy. They know violence. So you have to meet them with violence. Those guys are terrorists, American terrorists on our homeland committing violence. So is there going to come a point when those terrorists are met with more violence? So in case people, which I've seen, bot-like comments that go, yeah, get rid of them, shouldn't have come here, and absolutely have no idea the situation involved there. I want to show you guys this man in Texas who said he spoke with local police and asked them what it is that they should do with unidentified people posing as agents, which we've seen countless stories of, coming in to try and kidnap folks. What recourse do American people with the rights that we're supposed to have? What recourse do we have? And not even just American people that are here illegally, they have rights too. I know that's something that gets disputed by fascists, but that thing that they said they follow the Constitution says that they have rights too. So before you guys start saying things like, maybe they shouldn't be here illegally, how do they even know that they're here on an undocumented basis? How would you know it? You didn't check anything. You just snatched people up because they're the wrong skin tone, and you have a quota from this Nazi named Stephen Miller. Let's go to this guy in Texas who was talking about it. I want to pay attention to the way this works and what has been unleashed and how much they give a damn about it.
So I talked to a Fort Worth police officer last night on 7th Street about my question of what do we do if we see masked unidentified gunmen taking somebody off the street in our neighborhood. And I told him the neighborhood I lived in. And his response was, well, they don't coordinate with us. I don't know who they are. And I don't know what the right answer is for what you're supposed to do if you see this. And he added that he fully believed that cartels were taking advantage of this situation because anybody right now can grab an ice patch off Amazon, put it on a vest, grab a mask, and go kidnap somebody. And we as citizens have no way to know whether they're law enforcement or cartel members. And I would go on to suggest that just your random predators and thugs are taking advantage of this as well. And there is zero line between law enforcement and actual criminals right now. There's zero line. The police officers aren't following the law in the United States Constitution, and the criminals are still criminals. And if you see something in your neighborhood, you have no clue whether it's, a random sexual predator, a cartel member, or a deputized person from ICE who's not an ICE agent or an actual ICE agent. There's no line between criminals and law enforcement right now. And regardless of your feelings about anything else, I think that has to be corrected.
So he went and talked to a local police officer who literally told him, I have to make sure I get the quote right. The police told him he doesn't know what he's supposed to do when it comes to masked men running up and maybe kidnapping your son, your daughter, your wife, your parents, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin. The law enforcement, local law enforcement for his city and state said they don't know what to do about masked men that are unidentified. That, by the way, are doing the types of activities that the cartel is now mirroring because it makes their jobs so much easier anytime they want to commit any other illegal activities. There's zero line between what we would have used to deem law enforcement agencies of the United States versus cartel members who could kidnap people and just say, yo, ICE, I'm here. Look at this bulletproof vest that I bought off Amazon with a tag on it that says law enforcement or police on it. The Halloween costumes they can throw on and act like they're doing it. If they can mirror it and they're doing illegal activities, I feel like when we talk about a mirror, the illegal activities are also being carried out by the people who claim to be enforcing the law. So if there's no line in between it, and they're literally doing what cartel members are doing, Doesn't that make them no better than the cartel that they demonized and talked about how they're coming for your wife, your daughter, your son, your father, and even you? I think they're the ones that we should be looking out for. And if you don't want to get caught up as being part of the cartel, maybe you should identify yourself. And if you don't, be ready for a fucking fight. Just be ready for a fight. Glad you guys showed up for an extra half an hour. I know it was going to be that long, but it was. Appreciate you guys. Sorry to go into the weekend with those types of energies and stories, but that's what we're dealing with. And we kind of don't have much of a luxury anymore to act like it's not happening. It's been happening in different forms since this country got started. And this just morphs into the next phase of it, and the next phase of it, and the next new target of it, and the next new boogeyman that we demonize and dehumanize and make sure that illegal activities can take place. The government over time has always done illegal activities on specific groups in this country. We're now finding it on these, and it's going to spread to really everybody, because bottom line now is money, power, and control. And they have to strip you of all of your rights to get all of that. Thanks, you guys. Enjoy your enjoy your weekend. If you're going into damage report half hour late, tell them why, because I talk too much. Good to see you guys. Glad you're around. I'll talk to you guys next week on the best damn day of the week. But until then, have a great weekend. I hope you do. I really do.